We are now live.
We're
Oh
live.
my gosh, I'm so nervous. How do we do this live thing? It's my first
How do
time.
we do? How do we do this?
What's going on, peoples?
So nervous.
Welcome back, the last and final installment to Big Tent Revival, and the moment you've all been waiting for, the intro music.
You're listening to the Fade to Gray Network.
We invite people
of all backgrounds
to share their stories
Through nuanced conversations
And forward thinking.
and not taking ourselves too seriously.
Everyone's story matters.
Every voice is important.
Life is polarizing
But not everything is black and white.
Come join us
as we fade to gray.
That wasn't dancing. It was a feature. All right, welcome back. Here we go. You guys ready for this? Are you buckled in? It's Sunday. It's the end of the weekend. This is the last kind of hurrah before we have to start thinking about the next day, the work week, where we get to be quarantined once again and realize that we get to work from home.
Speak for yourself, Omar. Texas is open for business.
Open for business, just
What
like
does that mean?
I think it means that businesses are going to open back open.
Gay joke.
Open back open.
Yep, they'll be back open now.
You know it. Just as I said it. I think Missouri is too, specifically St. Charles on Monday.
PA is still enforcing the mask rule.
Incredibly locked down.
Yeah, but
So sad.
it's okay. We have medical marijuana moving towards recreational, so it's not all bad in PA.
Still got their wine shops closed.
Nope, they opened back up too.
Oh,
Yeah, I went there last week.
all of them?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, that's awesome because Elizabeth's been going through some crazy withdrawals.
No.
I love that blanket behind you, by the way. I don't think it's been commented on yet.
I feel like I'm in Sunday school or something.
I feel like that was like mine when I was a baby.
It might have been.
An actual infant child.
Your grandmother might have made it.
I feel like there's an ark over there where we can't see it, full of all sorts of animals.
No,
Wrong.
it's not religious, actually.
It's a hill
Oh, okay.
with a
With
pond.
birds in the... I guess
A
that's a duck.
Oh, there's
Yeah.
a squirrel.
Anyway, they can't see any of that. So anyway, welcome. I don't know if anybody's watching. This is why you came. We came to show you blankets, and right now you can get one. If you become a Patreon of Fade to Gray, you can get a nice blanket from Omar's
Yeah,
from
Omar's
Omar's
childhood.
childhood.
Scrooge
I just
level.
point out the phrase, "Oh, there's a squirrel." Reminds me of someone.
And right now, for the right price, I'll even sell my stepdad's raisins.
Whoa.
That might be
Right.
your
Oh, dude,
inheritance.
here, wait. I wonder if I can show you this little. Wait a minute. No,
Those are
never
the
mind.
California raisins.
Above the raisins, it gets a little racist. So we're not.
Oh,
gonna,
okay.
We're not going to go there.
All right.
Guys,
I don't want to have to explain that to Facebook Live.
I just want to announce that we are on Facebook Live right now, and I am very happy to report that there are 3 people here. It is me, Elizabeth, and Chris, all the people currently on this call.
Since we're talking about it, man, doesn't that just give Seth so much anxiety? I don't know how many times he has to count and watch the numbers of our live to give him any sort of validation.
You don't know that I do that.
You talk about it all the time.
Do I?
You're
Yes,
like-
just like right now.
There was
Just
one
like-
time where we had only
Fair.
5 people.
We have 3 and it's us.
So obviously the one night when we
What's
had
going on?
Aaron Weiss and there was like 60, like apparently he felt really good about himself. But man, I don't think that, like, is that why you go live, just for the affirmation of the numbers? And so now you're depressed.
No,
Somebody come watch Seth talk to us right now.
it's just exciting, and the numbers just dropped to 1 right now, so it's real sad over here.
Everybody's
Yeah, I'm still
Uh,
watching.
So,
I'm trying to share it.
well,
That's why I'm not
Maybe
there.
I should do that for a second too. So anyway,
Yeah,
we're
that's
just
true.
here to wrap things up, and we are going to get into some kind of good things. And if you have any comments about this weekend or want to participate whatsoever, please do in the comments. And Patreons will bring you on into the webinar so you can be attendees, and possibly they can give you a voice. You have so much power.
so much power.
Man, it's been a great weekend. I've been super stoked to do this. You know, when we were first talking about doing this, I thought, it probably never happened. It'll just be fun to talk about. And we fucking did it. It's done.
I can't believe it. I can't believe we did it.
I mean, I haven't had time to process fully all of the guests, but I was incredibly impressed with how things turned out. I know we were just joking about like the numbers and stuff like that, but I mean, one of the Aaron Weiss video is dangerously close to going viral at this point. And then the rest of them, you know, pretty decent turnout. I really enjoyed the participation from, you know, the people as they were watching, but it's been really interesting to see for me, like the day after, because you have to remember even the time zones. We started at 11 o'clock in the morning Eastern Standard Time. That's 6 a.m. in Alaska. And a lot of the people that were in that quote unquote cult that we were in were in Alaska.
No quotes.
Yeah, no quotes. Okay. And so it's that, I think for me, has been the biggest immediate impact in like how grateful I am that they're getting a chance to hear that. And some of the responses and feedback I've had from those former students have made me kind of emotional all day, and just kind of like, I didn't have any expectations for that conversation, but it's been better than I could have hoped so far. And it seems like it's kind of been sharing in circles because I'm getting responses throughout the day as well. So that's something also to keep in mind, Seth, that even though people may not be able to watch right away, because I mean, it may be dinner time for some people on the East Coast, that like it just being out there it's been worth it. I was telling Chris, I don't want to sound too Christian or, put too much purpose or emphasis on events, but it just feels like this is something that we are definitely supposed to do. Again, just big thanks for everybody who was able to, our guest from Rick Allen Ross. I mean, I guess I can just mention them all off right now real quick and then let you guys all talk. Thank you. And, I never met you before. We talk through email. It's funny how that generation uses email like text message, so it'd just be like one line or emails and stuff. But he showed up and he did great. He was able to just kind of flow with our sense of humor as well, which I was a little nervous about that. And some of the things he talked about are some stuff that I had not heard him mention on other podcasts that I've listened to or different things that have been out there. So that was a real blessing, #blessing. And and then that's the one that has had the biggest impact on like the students in Alaska that are getting the responses from. Dave and Lisa, I mean, it should have been just Lisa, let's just be honest. I mean, Dave's been talking, he's a really good friend of mine, and I always love everything he has to say. He's an amazing life coach, and like I talk to him on the side, like, and every time I'm just like feel encouraged, and just an amazing man.
Should we go speaker by speaker? Like,
oh, yeah, because I skipped Robert in
like
subculture.
Well, yeah. What if we start with Carl? Now everybody talk about Carl, and then go to the next one.
Well,
or no,
I like that.
Just take turns.
I like that.
I like that.
Okay.
You can keep going.
Okay.
I was just asking.
So after, because I skipped somebody.
You skipped
already.
Robert.
Right. But you're talking about Carl.
Let's go back.
Carl Forehand.
Oh, sorry.
who's
Carl
actually
Forehand asked a question.
commented.
Sorry, Carl. You got me distracted too now.
I'm so confused.
No, sorry. Rick Ross. If we start with Rick Ross and everybody talk about that.
Sure.
Or you can just keep
No, that's
going
good.
with Robert.
No, that's good. Let's do that.
Okay.
I like your idea.
Okay, so I'm taking these out because I hear myself over myself. So I was just watching the Facebook comments for the Rick Ross interview and was sitting here going, yeah, Master's Commission was a cult, which I already kind of had this feeling like, it really probably was. And then as he's describing it, I'm like, fuck. That's why I put my apology in there when I did. And I've been in the same boat as Omar, just hearing back from some of the students. I mean, because in the program, like Omar mostly worked with the guys and I mostly worked with the girls. And so we had different relationships with the students, right? So I've actually been talking to some of the girls today, just working through apologies. So I feel as if I'm going to be writing a few more throughout the next week, but it was hard to be. I don't know.
Yeah,
What-
that's been hard watching you take it as hard as you have, because I feel like that's not necessary. They should definitely let yourself off the hook. Like if you, everybody, as much as it was everything you said it was, as far as Colt, I mean, there was a lot of good that happened out of that, and um, honestly, you were doing your best, just like I was doing my best. It's not like we were in it for trying to control or manipulate people. I mean, we solve, like, and that's the one thing that has been encouraging. So Luke, if you hear this, it's been, thank you for reaching out, thank you for sharing that for other students to hear and getting the word out on, you know, because a lot of people were left a little broken and devastated when that school ended. And but I feel like you've paid your penance. I feel like we've dealt with a lot of emotional baggage, and you were as much of a victim as anything. Just because you were in quote unquote leadership, it just means that you were abused more maybe than some of the students were. So like I think you need to stop apologizing for it as much, because you didn't do anything, and you weren't even like allowed to do that much anyway. You're treated like a secretary. So
Yeah, that's true.
What is it about this interview with Rick Allen Ross that sealed it or confirmed it for you in such a way? Because it sounds as if like this interview almost, I mean, it's bringing back a lot of things for you in a way, especially since you were apologizing and things like that. Like what is it about this interview that was so impactful?
I think it put words for how I saw things, and the word, the way it was defined,
it validated you. Is that the word?
validated, yeah. And like,
The way what was defined?
what's that?
The way what was defined?
The way our
Cult.
the way Master's Commission was defined, because everything he said was like, this is what a cult is, dot 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 dot, and I was like,
Mhm.
Master's Commission, Master's Commission, Master's Commission, Master's
Well, he
Commission.
spoke directly to discipleship centers
Yeah,
in general, which that covers a lot of things. So that was
Right.
that was really cool, because it wasn't he spoke more outside of YWAM, where most of the things I've ever heard him talk about has been like YWAM focused, and there's a lot
Right.
more discipleship centers out there who are more cultish than even
Yes.
YWAM. And so
Yes.
that was the thing that, and it validated Elizabeth, because that's the whole thing she's been saying when she's been hearing this guy is, but I think my experience in Master's Commission was worse. And I'm like, yeah, but you can't let one cult off because the other one's worse.
right,
Right.
We
right.
didn't-
That's valid.
But I never felt like the manipulation side of things. I never felt in the YWAM programs that I was in. I know it was there, but I never felt it the way I did when I was in Master's Commission. That was a whole nother level.
No, but still they were taking kids' money and using them, you know, as free labor,
Yeah.
and you know, going out, sending these kids out. And I mean, there's a bunch of different things. I like YWAM. I'm not gonna like shit on it too bad. And that's the whole thing too, is like, I still, as much as it was good having Rick Allen Ross on, I agree with him, you know, I still lean towards a lot of that stuff. I'm still a deadhead. I'm still like still see value in community. I'd rather live on a commune than in a city. So
There's a young man named Jesse Borden who says, when I was in the program with my third year, the first half was with Scott. The part of the year was good. When the next leader came in, I saw who he was and I did not like him. So I knew I couldn't be a part of what he was taking everyone into the next year.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, Jesse, I totally understand everything. We were there for that part, so we could see that.
Yeah, and it's been good catching up with people like Jesse too. He's another one who's been around and was listening to some of the. I think he was actually catching up on. Jesse was more interacting, I think, during like, was it the homeschool, one of the ones, and I told him he needed to go back and check out the cult one. But yeah, I mean, I guess we're not here to like necessarily throw people under the bus or anything like that. But if you listen to mine Elizabeth's story back in episode 1. I mean, there was a lot of shady stuff that was going on that we didn't like. I mean, I was assistant director and I didn't really know everything that was going on. I mean, I'll own my shit. I was getting high at night, smoking weed, and like one of the students, Mel, would be like, it sure smells good out here. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know what that's about. And so I always had like internal conflict about that. But at the same time, I was not telling people that they shouldn't be smoking. So I don't know. It's weird. Yeah, I feel like even in that, so that new director that came in, I think the problem was more the entire leadership of the church. Who like it's
At that
hard for
point,
me to
yes.
like say because it's not like I dislike the guy. I'm not coming after him necessarily, but I mean, it is what it is. It was everything was shut down because of him, and a lot of hurt people in the valley in Wasilla are because of him. And it seems like there's not a lot of ownership to that either.
That's my
So,
biggest problem.
Yeah. So that,
I haven't gotten over that yet.
So it was very healing. And like I said, we're just now processing. This is the first time me and Elizabeth have even really got a chance to even talk about it. So, yeah, it's because we went right into the next guest. I mean, do you guys want to talk a little bit more about Rick Allen Ross before we go anywhere else?
Yeah, I'd like to say something because you know me, like 7 or 8 years ago when I made the decision to give up Christianity, I was angry at God, very angry. And I knew that I could never be like the kind of like militant person that just goes around, and says, "Hey, you need to leave your faith because it's all evil." But I kind of developed some of those qualities over the years because I thought, no, religion is extremely damaging and people need to know that. But then, like, the more I've spoken with people like Rick Allen Ross, the more I see it's not really so much religion as it is these like radicalized sects of religion. And even in talking to like a buddy of mine that I used to live with whenever I was in really deep fundamentalist Christianity, my buddy Brad, he was a youth pastor at one time. He and I have been catching up on Marco Polo as of late. And, it's funny because the other day he asked me like, how's your walk, man? And I'm like, my walk. Oh yeah. Christianese, non-existent. And, he wasn't judgmental. He just came back and said, well, I love you, man. And, I'm sorry that things didn't work out. And I'm like, Brad's a cool dude. And I thought he was going to be super judgmental about it, but he wasn't. He wasn't part of, what radicalized stuff I was really into, I don't think. And anyhow, whenever Rick Allen Ross was talking about Jesus, he said, no other religion has a God that, of course, Jesus, who, didn't try to gain all the glory from themselves and didn't send all of his followers to die first. He was the one that went and died for them. And I thought, like, I don't believe in the deity of Christ. I don't believe that he, is divine. I believe he was a real person. But one thing that, if the oral history is true, the accounts in the Bible are true, which who knows? But if that is true about Jesus, I would say that does set him apart, and just because there are radicalized groups who use Jesus as a sort of like gateway to make their own fortune and gain their own power doesn't mean that all needs to be attributed back to him. It's like whenever I don't know, whenever somebody does something and then like a person will just blanket statement about those kind of people, oh, well, this one person did it, so they're all like that, right? I mean, that's essentially what you're doing with religion whenever you say, oh, all religion is traumatic or problematic or whatever. Like, I know that for me, whenever I was a part of the church that I was a part of, I know what I went for. Like, I know why I got sucked into that in hindsight. At the time, I had no idea. I was blind to it. But I know that at that point in my life, it's very possible that I needed Christ and that religion saved me at that point. It's very possible. I couldn't tell you because that's the path I went down as opposed to something else. I don't know what my life would have been like without that. So who am I to say that Jesus doesn't save? I don't personally believe in the divinity of Jesus. I don't believe that religion is for me anymore, but at a time in my life, I really feel like like I needed it. And so that's been something that I've really been thinking about a lot lately and struggling with, because you can ask Seth, I'm always telling him, hey, give up your religion, dude. It's stupid, always. And to an extent, I believe that. But at the same time, sometimes we need it. I guess some people need it, you know. I don't know.
That's deep, man. You're gonna,
Yeah.
you're trying to make me cry. Like
I'm speechless. It's my turn to talk, and I don't know where to start. It's interesting to see how an expert on cults and the dangers and impact that cults have,
a Jewish man.
and then look at how that's impacting each of us personally. By the way, such a great interview for like 9 o'clock in the morning. Way to start off a conference FTG style. Hey, we're gonna bring on a cult expert at first thing in the morning.
Set the tone
We'll
for
get
this.
ready. We might personally have to step out for crying sessions in regards to our own personal trauma. We hope that you come along with us and enjoy the fun. I think that interview, when edited and put together into a podcast, is going to be the bomb.com double click, because there is so much in that.
That was so gay.
There is so much in that is impactful. Okay. And yes,
Oh man.
I just want to flavor some of this seriousness, because Chris is crying and I don't know what to do about it. This doesn't
I
happen
don't
very
cry.
often.
I don't cry,
You
Seth.
teared up. And it's interesting.
We
That's
were
what I'm
watching you, Chris.
it's on video, man. Don't be like Trump. Don't deny it.
Don't be like Trump.
They were the greatest tears. They were terrific. The best.
Nothing ever like it the world has ever seen before.
I posted something just for Chris, which I thought was
Everyone
posted
knows it.
to the Fade to Gray family, and I posted it on the main page, and I deleted it right after.
Oh, was it the mask?
Yeah.
Oh, it's
I was
fantastic.
I was just gonna post it to the Patreon, and I was like, I don't think was like Chris posted enough Trump stuff. I'm not gonna support his. I'm not gonna support his habit. So
Okay, I did not mean to divert cult and religious trauma to Trump. That was just a little flavor.
You can
It's
compare
just
the,
a little
you can
flavor.
compare the two if you want to.
Just-
We can
It's
go.
it's a little seasoning.
Colts come from China.
Oh my gosh.
The best ones come from India.
It's so good.
That's the truth.
No, I wasn't involved in Master's Commission. When I started working at the church at Word of Life, they had just ended the program. So I would have been in it had I started a year prior, when I started my internship, actually. But I can identify with a lot of the things that he talked about, and it's intriguing to see how a faith rooted in a selfless leader can result in such selfish actions by the people who follow that belief. But it doesn't negate the belief. You know, it's when it's taken out of its context and it's used in a way that's oppressive is where it becomes problematic. And I think that was really highlighted in that interview. I'm really happy we hooked that interview.
Yeah, that was great. Good job on that, Omar.
Especially when you
bravo.
start talking about Nexium and stuff, because it points out the fact that it can have nothing to do with religion at all. You know,
Right.
and that some of these pyramid schemes are cults too, and so they basically just to watch yourself. And yeah, it was very informative. It was an amazing get. Thank you, Rick Allen Ross. It was one of the last minute things. If to be completely honest, I wanted to get Pete Enns back on here because he's one of my heroes, and he was just too busy, and you know, he graciously declined. And so I was scrambling to find out who our opener was, and I found Rick Allen Ross, and I was like shooting for the moon because you know he seems like a kind of a big deal. I don't think he does a lot of podcasts yet. I don't think a lot of people know about him, and I think people should know about him. And so I hope to hear him on a lot more now. You know, I hope that helps get
I think
the
you
word
will.
out. And so yes.
You can guarantee Bad Christian will have him in a month or so.
Well, Matt was interested. Yeah, it was cool
Yeah.
that he had a question. So
It was super cool that he, showed up. I was actually really stoked on that.
I was too, actually.
So yeah, we'll move on to our next guest, I guess, which
Yeah.
was subculture with Tanise and Rob, and that was talk about
Another
still being
tearful.
emotionally wrecked from
Right.
my past trauma, moving into, I mean,
Gay.
moving moving into what Robert, the way, okay, so Tanise is cool, hella cool. I can't wait to like smoke some blunts with her like one day, and have her back on the podcast just to get to know her better. But Rob, man, there's something about the way that he can break down the barrier in conversations, especially around race, like so kind of defuse trigger words or taboo uh, topics. It is so impressive. It's almost like you want to say like he has an anointing for it, or he definitely has a special gifting or patience, and maybe he learned it as an atheist, talking with Christians. I don't know what it is about the man, but he's a special dude. And what they were talking about the whiteness in Christianity and how it, if that is that what people are running from more than anything else, it's he's right. And but the hard part is getting people to just hear that, because there's so much baggage attached to race, and people, because it becomes political, it becomes all kinds of things to where, but he's able to somehow cut through that on just a personal level and be, let's know this is like, let's look at this, let's look at where this came from. What is it that is actually oppressing you here? Is it Jesus? Kind of like how Chris just said about the cults. Is it the Jesus, the religion that's oppressing you here, or is it maybe something that came through European Christianity? and then and maybe he has a point, and just the way looking at Jesus as a Mexican immigrant opened my eyes, like that. I opened my eyes in a way that I never looked at Jesus before, or looking at the gospel message. Like, I mean, I've always known the gospel message is for the broken and for the widow and for the hurting, and I think that's obvious. But somehow we still been sold this American gospel that I bought into too, of prosperity and of somehow, Jesus is for the oppressor, or so get yours while you can, sort of thing. It's you know so it was incredibly important stuff. And again, early in the morning, right after another emotional conversation. So it's almost like I feel like I could have been more emotionally prepared for it if they would have their own space. But it was amazing. I'm speechless. I mean, I'm not. I don't have anything else to say, so I'm done.
Yeah, I really like Robert Munson, and Tamise was really nice. It was really nice to meet her, and um, I think they have a very powerful. I don't want to say ministry because I don't give a shit about the Christ centered part of it, but I love what they do.
It is still a mission. It's
It
like
is a
their
mission, and
life mission.
right, and the work that they're doing is important because, first of all, brown and black people furthering their education is paramount, I think. And regardless of what they're doing, whether it be at a college or, some sort of vocational training or whatever, a lot of times they can't get through that because they don't have the funds to do it. And a lot of times they'll give up because they just can't do it, and then they'll be stuck in perpetual poverty forever. And this group is helping them get through that, and that's huge. And as a person who's an educator and, invest my life into students, I mean, I work in an urban district and it's majority Hispanic and African American. Like, that's my passion too. And so I was very moved when we first talked to Robert about that. In fact, I hate to say it because I really like Robert as a person, but I kind of thought he was a kook at first, and even
you
asked
did.
him a question that kind of treated him as such. Um, I wanted to be respectful about it, but at the same time, I knew I wasn't the only one thinking that way, because he said he had heard the audible voice of God, and
Yeah, that's a hard one to swallow, especially somebody
Yeah.
who doesn't believe in God. So
Yeah, and who am I to say that he hasn't, but at the same time, like, regardless of his beliefs, that's what ended up leading him, I think, to do what he does, which is extremely important work. And I'm super stoked to know him. He and I are friends on Twitter, and I've been, listening to a lot of what he has to say, and it's good stuff. And I'm very happy to know him.
Seth?
Yeah. So I was
He
just
hates
talking.
Robert.
No, I was just talking to a
White
family
men.
member. I was just talking to a family member who I encouraged to listen to our roundtable episode with Robert that we have before the conference. And this person told me that they had to stop listening to the podcast because we were so disrespectful to Jesus. And that we weren't being respectful of a Christian. And I was like, you didn't listen to the rest of the episode. You have to listen to the full thing. So when you're talking about not respecting his religious belief, I'm like,
Did they listen to Amanda Martin?
Oh, I hope no, bro. God.
let's
hope not.
We'll get to that in a minute.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, Jesus
I
Christ.
love Amanda, but no.
sorry, Jesus Christ. I mean, forgive us. Jeez.
I love Amanda, but not to mother.
She was
I
making
think that
she was making sure that none of us got to heaven. She just wanted to come.
I absolutely love Robert in regards to what he is doing for the African American community, and also his heart. I think that he is providing a voice specifically around the impact of white evangelicalism on Black Christianity that needs to be heard and isn't being told. Because as a white person,
Never thought of it.
I don't never, especially growing up in rural Missouri, like that where I grew up, I wouldn't, that was the furthest thing from my mind. And the way that he brings that up and conceptualizes it, I think is really beneficial for people. And it's a voice we need to hear. And I'm just really thankful that he gave us the time to talk with him. Thank you, man.
Yeah,
I went and ordered
and to
his
me,
book.
even though Seth can't ever talk about women or allow them to be seen on his podcast. I love you, Seth. I'm just giving you a hard time, but keep going.
I was trying as
I interrupt the woman that was speaking on our podcast.
I was trying to do everything I could, and I failed.
No,
It's a good conversation.
It's funny because I was running the Facebook for that and went to go grab the donation button for their ministry or for their stuff. And I went to go post it, and just before I pressed send, Tamise is like, we don't really, don't go and support us if you feel guilty. And I'm like, that's exactly why I'm trying to post this. I should stop. So how bad is that? So then I went and ordered their book. I'm really excited to get the book because I've been actually looking for history books and that type of thing for our homeschool, actually, speaking of homeschooling, because I want to expose our kids to cultural experiences that are not ours, or not mine, rather, I should say. So I'm excited to get that book and read it and see how, and they were talking about their children's books. I'm excited to find those for once they are published for our kids. They're going to be in our library as soon as they're published.
That's awesome.
I will be
Yes.
promoting them on Foreign Toe Podcast.
Yes, you guys should definitely go support them. Check out their content and material. They have 3 different podcasts that they do, and they're a lot. I haven't listened to the podcast, but I can tell by the personality. I'm sure it's a lot of fun. I'm really interested in the one that they keep downplaying because I guess it gets a little raunchy.
Is that the
Because we
Hive?
never get raunchy.
Yeah.
So
I'd like to know what their raunchy is in comparison to like what normal FTG banter is. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see that
This is
comparison.
the question.
I'm not saying anything about them. I'm just saying I'd like to see the comparison because I think that FTG may give them a run up for their money.
So the next interview we did was with the Lunsfords.
Yes.
That was me and Seth.
and they were great. I
Or
already
me.
started talking about them earlier, so you can keep going.
Whatever,
It
Elizabeth.
was me and Seth was scrolling Grinder.
I was not scrolling Grinder.
I actually posted on Facebook a picture of all of us like completely like captivated by Aaron Weiss as he's playing guitar, and Seth's over there on his phone
He's like
scrolling
us.
through there on Grinder while
I
Aaron
was-
Weiss is saving
I-
lives.
Have not been on Grinder at all
I don't believe you.
Bullshit.
this weekend. I have not.
In the last 5 minutes.
I have in the last 5 minutes. I have not during the interviews with the Lunsford. No, I honestly didn't have much input with it. I'm honestly captivated by a lot of what they have to say, and it was going well, and I didn't have anything that I felt was going to add. I felt my best thing was to let them do their thing.
I mean, Lisa
So-
took the show. Omar even
Yes.
said, like,
Yeah.
if we would have
She
just had
did.
Lisa.
And
Yeah.
she
No
was
offense, David.
phenomenal.
I always think David's phenomenal, so it's not a slam on him at all. But
Right.
it was whenever she, got on a roll and started, talking about a point, whether it be about religion or about family and stuff. It was, she definitely has something to say. She has a passion, and I'm
Yeah.
excited to hear more of it. I'm glad she's starting the podcast.
Yeah,
and,
I'm excited about that.
and I can't wait. I'll say all my nice things about David when we talk about his music set.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, their podcast is a conversation with David and Lisa Lunsford, and it's I haven't listened to it yet, but it's definitely on my up next list. I'm super excited to check it out, and I really appreciated Lisa's perspective because it was pretty similar to mine, going from Christian to non-believer. I don't call myself an atheist, but I do appreciate that perspective. Seth is looking at me like I'm crazy, but I have
He's
always
always said that,
said
Seth.
that,
I
Seth.
know he's always said that. But I'm just saying that the way at which the frequency
He just feels
and the
attacked.
rate
is
at
what he's
which he throws attacks at Christians makes me feel he's very much not agnostic and is very much atheist.
That's against Christians, not against God.
Well,
There's
he
a
does,
difference.
Well,
Is there not?
I
there
don't know.
is, but he does it at such ferocity, and normally it's around topics involving God. So
Hey, here's
yes,
the deal, though, Seth. Without me,
mm.
your faith would be so weak.
Oh,
To be-
Oh, you're so important, Chris.
Oh.
what would we do without you?
Can you
Talk
just
about
like
entitlement.
pat yourself on the back, maybe like eat a piece of pie for yourself or something? Like,
I'm on keto, Seth. I can't have pie.
what is it? Your birthday? Like, what are you needing? By
Actually, it's your birthday, and we need to say happy
Yes.
birthday, Seth.
you never did.
Happy birthday, Seth.
Thanks.
I sang to you
I
with
sang
all
to
of
you
my
too.
kids.
You
And
did,
I
and that was the
put
best poll I ever received.
thank
I
you.
didn't mean on the conference.
And
But
I
what?
put a post out that said happy
You did,
birthday, Seth.
and I was very thankful. So I'm not. Never mind.
Yeah, you guys
What-
didn't do that for me.
What'd your brother get you for your birthday?
I'll tell you this. You probably would have heard about it in Carl Idlewild and Renee Ocean's session because it was a sex toy. Tell us about it, Seth.
That was a beautiful segue.
I
I don't think he's even going to get words out for a minute. So I'm going to talk.
we
Yep. See, those aren't words. So,
You
no,
know,
so
like,
no
you
one's
collect
watching
yourself.
us. Like, we have 6 people, and this is like good stuff. It's so sad.
There's
6
7
people
now.
Oh,
See,
minus
you,
4.
Jesse.
It's 3.
see,
Thank
see,
you, Jesse.
see, Seth.
Jesse.
I
I-
appreciate you hammering home my point from earlier in the episode. So we'll get an update every 15 minutes on how many people are watching us. So if you're listening to this later, it's going to be hilarious for you. Or
Share
When it
this
gets to
your
1.
feed.
But
Get
that
some
would be
more of your
sad because
friends
that
to
man,
watch
we
with
Just-
us.
stopped watching.
is this what you're wanted to say?
No.
Okay.
But,
About Carl Idlewild? Or Renee
we
Ocean?
moved there.
Unless
Yeah,
you want,
so-
unless you want to talk about what your brother got you for your birthday.
I don't.
Chris did a
So let's
segue.
talk about
Yeah,
Carl.
Chris segue.
Carl is an inspiration.
And Jesse says happy birthday, Seth.
And Jesse, I say thank you for for Carl
This is so much
and
fun.
Renee. I love them. They
Thanks,
are
Tom.
amazing people. But I could not be in that interview because I felt very uncomfortable.
I loved the beginning of the interview when you were there and freaked out because you were there.
Go watch Instagram. Go check out our Instagram feed.
Can I? Okay, now hold up. Say that again, because the way that you just described that makes it appear as if I was doing something I was not supposed to, when in fact that isn't the full story. Now,
Don't
is it?
project your guilt on us.
It's
just go
not
check.
guilt.
Just go check out Instagram. Basically, Seth
At Fade to Gray Podcast.
Somebody had him on the call when he wasn't.
They kicked me off so that I couldn't monitor the call for them, and then they go ahead and go live while I am scrambling to get back in the call so that I can be a support to my team and be there for them in this interview, which
Poor
they
Seth.
did not care about.
And you've been a fantastic support. So
Yes.
thank
I
you
have
very
tried
much.
so hard.
In fact,
You have been great.
Tom Barrios from a friend of mine up in Pennsylvania says, "Can't watch right now. Kicked ass this weekend of podcasts minus Omar. Be safe, y'all."
What did everyone else think of Carl and Renee?
I fucking loved it.
I loved it.
Yeah, it's great. I think it's long overdue that people get comfortable with their sexuality. It's far too taboo in American culture for some reason, and I think that needs to go out the window. It causes a lot of shame. It causes a lot of bad sex and divorce, and I think that's a bad thing. So yeah, I'm all for it. I don't know about them doing porn though, but that's just not my thing.
I couldn't do that.
Nah, but power to them if that's what they
Yeah.
want to do.
You could do more things than you think, baby.
Omar over here.
I'm like wanting to have this conversation.
We're on Facebook Live. The entire world.
We're on
listen,
Facebook Live.
No one
It's
is.
true.
Two people are.
Here we go.
watching.
Okay, so
It's not
it
a
was
big
it was sooner than 15-minute update. So go ahead and just take a shot every time Steph tells you how many people are watching.
Got it.
I know Seth's really excited about the porn. He's already gotten a little taste of it.
This is true. Seth is like an editor. He gets.
I thought Carl did a really great job kind of breaking down all the
4 to
points
1.
that he had, and the presentation was
4 to 0.
great. After we went live, we had another like conversation, which I thought was really fun.
Seth, can you stop watching Facebook and have a conversation with us, or
We're
you want
here,
us to
Seth.
you want us to just finish it for you?
My eyes are here, Seth.
There's only 4 people watching now, so stop.
So
watching.
Seth's not going to talk to us anymore because that's the only reason he wants to talk to us.
No.
Right.
That's what
It's
we
going to be
do.
fun when we put it out as a podcast. So yep, keep going.
I'm done.
I don't know. I lost my.
I
You're
think
talking
we're
about Carl and
alone.
Renee.
Yes, Elizabeth was
Yes.
talking about Carl and Renee, and
I
we got
really
distracted.
appreciated their perspective as well, and it does need to happen. Like, we need to be more comfortable with ourselves. Not that everybody needs to become amateur porn stars, but it helps our relationship when I figured myself out, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
But-
Yeah. You and Omar actually got kind of personal about some stuff, and I was actually a little surprised that
Well, that was in the after thing, non-live thing, and we
Oh,
are
that's
live
right.
now, so we're gonna
Gotcha.
just leave it as non-live thing.
all right.
I didn't get personal about anything. That's why I'm just like watching Elizabeth talk, So I'm not gonna stop her. She can talk about what she wants. But no, yeah, I appreciate Carl and Renee a lot. I would like to have heard a little bit more from Renee, but I love Carl. We've known him for a while, and I think his perspective on stuff, how he's a very intelligent dude, and he kind of sees things like breaks it down, and he came with a 5-step
Yeah, I like
way
that.
of having better sex, and this is something that he didn't steal from somebody else. This is something that he's actually put thought and effort into. Yeah, you can actually see he cares about it. He may be a horny little motherfucker, but it's not it seems like it's
With
to
a broken
him.
penis.
Yeah, but it seems to him, to me at least, that he has more. It's he's on a mission to actually do something good for not even marriages, just for people, for themselves, is it something like know yourself? I mean, that was like this, like step one. It's like, what is it that you like, like don't listen to like what everybody else tells you how it's supposed to be. I mean, I'm not really like a rough sex kind of guy. I don't really get the whole choking thing necessarily, like, I mean, or BDSM or anything like that. It's not, but to teach their own, and it's not to put shame on anybody for something like that is unfortunate, because I know what shame can do to people. And so, and I love his crusade and support him, and it was really cool to have like under the Big Tent like moniker, like going from, and it was really kind of like starting to lighten up the day and getting ready to get into the music set. So it was like, I don't think I could have handled anything else super heavy. So it was nice to kind of like relax and talk about sex, baby. And it was cool.
Yeah.
I like that they came with educational materials.
You like the printout?
They're credentialed.
They are. I did like that though too. Their steps, like you said.
Yeah.
It was helpful.
They were prepared.
Yep.
Cool. And that was it before we took a little break. And I could tell you, I don't think any of us were prepared for what it was going to be like podcasting from 11 o'clock in the morning to 11:30 at night. And
No.
by the time I felt a little bit bad for Dave and Lisa, because normally we have a 30-minute question and answer session afterwards. And we talked to them for a little bit, and I'm like looking, I'm like, if we don't do this, then we get an hour break instead of a 30-minute break. And I knew Dave was coming back on later and stuff too. So, but I felt guilty, because I know had we been fresh, then we probably would have, got another 30 minutes of good material from Lisa and stuff. But I know that emotionally we had been drained from the two heavy conversations before that. So moving into Carl and Renee, it was already kind of like, it's starting to be 5 o'clock here. So I'm cracking open some Miller Lite. I'm already on like blunt number 3. And so I was getting ready for that evening, and the evening session was, oh my God, dude, it just kept getting better. The day just kept getting better. I did not know what to expect. I knew there was going to be less demand on us personally, because I'm not a musician, so all I have to do is sit there and be a fan and make sure, monitor Facebook and have, Seth tell us how many people are watching every 5 minutes. So don't be mad, Seth.
He's not paying attention.
He's trying not
He's
to.
on grind.
I'm not. I am choosing to not respond.
He's watching Facebook numbers.
He's like,
Anyway,
I'm looking at analytics.
Just one more.
Anyway, so we got back on in the evening with Dave, and he came on. It was the first time I've seen him play his guitar without the strap for his wrist to pick with, and I'm like, okay, this can be interesting to see how this goes. He had his glass of Bullet whiskey, and he was not fucking around. Like he came to play. He came to like that would make some art and just get into his closet and get alone with us, get in front of everybody, and just well out on his guitar. And that man, there's no reason why he shouldn't be famous. Like what he is able to do with songwriting, it's like so simple and so just comfortable with himself. It's inspiring for anybody. I mean, who writes a song? Hey, my name's David.
David Lunsford.
I was born with one hand. I'm a preacher's kid. Like, I mean, it's not like it's like who just is like, hey, this is who I am. Here's all my insecurities. Fuck it. I'm not a Christian. Like, just laying everything out there, and like it's so vulnerable, so raw, so him. So I'm just impressed with what he's doing with his music, and be able to watch him from the YWAM days of rocking out to now. There's no reason why that guy shouldn't be famous, and so I'm honored to know him. Super talented. Thanks again, Dave. And you moved me. You didn't make me cry like you did Seth, but you moved me. You did.
I laughed. I cried. It moved me, Bob.
Little
What's it-
VeggieTales reference there.
That's a VeggieTales, yeah.
I'm jumping in line. There were moments like that I forget that he doesn't have a hand because he's
We've got
so
one hand.
comfortable.
Except for when he's singing about it.
Right, which actually then brought my attention back to it. Because he's so talented, because he's so fluid with the guitar, it is easy just to look at his face without looking at the guitar and realize that he doesn't have a hand.
I felt
Yeah.
bad because I almost called it a nub, but I didn't know if that was going to be like offensive.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
So
know.
I just said you're playing with your skin.
It's a wrist, I guess. I mean, he has
Yeah.
a wrist there.
But like what I'm saying is he's so talented, it's easy not even to recognize that. Like we were listening to him and I was just totally jiving, and then he sang that song, I'm a man, I only have one hand, and I was like, oh, I forgot, and I felt really guilty about it for a moment.
Well-
But he is so moving. His songwriting, as you mentioned, Omar, and again, I don't want to just repeat everything you said, but so vulnerable, so raw, so real, and is rooted in actual experience. It's his life story, and he's an incredible storyteller.
Yeah, I mean, even the fact that like he's always had a pick to play with, and now he's playing just bare skin. He mentioned it and didn't really go into, but like just playing through the pain. Like every strum on that guitar hurts him to play, but he knows that he has to do it in order to build up calluses so it doesn't hurt anymore, and so he's just playing through the pain right now. So that was.
My favorite part still is when he said he had to turn up his guitar, because I had just the most vivid flashback of Jason Goforth turning back around, looking at me at the keyboard, and he's just like,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
can't
know.
wait to go forth on here.
I can't wait to get Jason on here either. But
He's talented too.
yeah, he is so talented. But either way, it
I
was
like the last name.
it was great to hear David again.
Yeah, thanks, David. Can't wait to see what you do next, or hopefully this whole COVID thing dies down. You can go on tour. I'll support you.
Yes.
Or do a house show. Come out to these.
Yeah, we got some places you can play over here.
Seth, you must not be watching anymore. We're down to 2, or it's just me and you.
No, I know.
I'm watching. I'm not sure what's going on.
Omar,
The numbers
Chris
aren't right.
got off to probably check messages, and Elizabeth was like, fuck it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, after Dave, we had Aaron Weiss come on.
He was
big
our
deal.
biggest draw.
That-
Speaking
yeah,
of
Most
numbers.
definitely.
and what a cool dude. What a cool
Yeah. Yeah. He's a cool ass dude. I mean, and like I said, every time I've met him, he's just been super down to earth, super chill. And yeah, he's the exact same even now, and he was really nervous about playing songs because he's not super confident in his abilities to play guitar, or even that confident in his own singing voice, which is understandable. He doesn't have like the best singing voice, but like I mentioned, neither did Bob Dylan, and he's super important. Everyone looks back at Bob Dylan and says, man, what a trendsetter, and they love his songs, and I think the same thing can be said about Aaron. And yeah, I think it's kind of understandable why he has such a big following, because of how humble and how cool of a guy he is. And yeah, that was definitely the most people we've had on our live feed for sure. It was great.
Yeah, it was
It was
cool.
really cool.
I didn't the entire time. I was just engaged with Aaron. I'd never even read any of the comments or anything, and the comments were flooding into our little chat as they went. But yeah, that was a blast, and it was really cool watching you fanboy out about it. That's for sure. Like I'm normally doing a lot of fanboying out, and it was cool watching you kind of get all nervous about him being there. And I was just like, dude, I don't even listen to me without you. I'm just happy to. You seem like a really cool dude.
Yeah. I did love their first 2 albums a whole lot. And, like I told him, I don't really care about their stuff now. It's not.
Well, he made me a
Yeah.
fan. He turned me into a believer last night. There was
Yeah.
something about it. I mean, he came out so humble from the very beginning before we went live, and he was wanting people to focus more on the bunnies than on him. You know, it was just kind of, it was
And then the
cute.
bunnies fell asleep.
And, you know, and even with speaking with him beforehand, you know, it was always, there was no ego with this man. And it made it easy. Like, our very first conversation had nothing to do with anything other than our family, you know, and, you know, it was really cool. So I wasn't surprised at how easy it was to interview him. And I was a little nervous whether he was even going to play or not, you know. And so good job, Chris, and like kind of like spurring him on into that. You know, the first couple songs were a little rough. I wasn't sure about the sound, and like, you know, he didn't really remember the words, which it was no big deal. But I'm just like, you know, maybe it was just been better just to talk to the guy. And somewhere along the line, it was almost like after he played that Dead song, I don't know what it was, but he just got like more comfortable with himself too. And
He got into a groove.
and then all of a sudden I'm like, I see what people see in this guy. Like, I see why he has this fall. There's something once there's, you know, I use the word anointing again. I guess I can, because it's the Big Tent revival. But I mean, there's something like a talent, whatever you want to call it. That's the only word that I have. When someone's doing what they're supposed to be doing, and it's like that's him. He's like you said, amazing lyricist. You know, it was one of the first times I really was kind of like listened to some of the things he was singing about, and I'm like, yeah, I get it. I get why people like this dude. I get why there's such a cult following, and then afterwards sticking around, answering people's questions, answering fan questions, and he's like, remember, like, there's these random people from around like the United States that came in on the call, like, yeah, you met me in Florida, and like I was sure he was gonna be like, you know, I don't remember you, dude. He's like, and then like remembers the guy's like last name and stuff too.
Yeah.
How do you do that? So
Yeah, I don't know, but he really does try to do that, and that's really cool. And speaking of all the people that were on the webinar, we kind of apparently had some people sneak into our webinar.
Oh, yes, we did.
some gate crashers, man.
Yeah, we had some people that are not Patreons in that call, and they got to ask Aaron questions, but I'm okay with it.
Seth's not bitter.
Security.
To be fair, I think some of
No.
them felt bad and didn't ask questions, you know, on purpose, because we did have a few people that were like, no questions. But anyway, it's all good. It is what it is.
It's fun.
Yeah. So I did really enjoy Aaron Wise. I think my favorite part about the conversation with him was whenever he was talking to Paul, and he told Paul, you know, don't be so heady, you know, don't always be, you know, trying to figure out the world. Like, look at these bunnies. They're fine. They're having a great time, and they don't ever think about that kind of stuff, you know, like, just be okay with it. And I'm like, that's a good reminder, you know,
bunnies have more sex than any of us, so they're doing something right. But yeah, that was really, and I'm glad you mentioned Paul, by the way, too. And that, you know, this was bonus material. And at the very end, we wrapped up the conversation. You know, Aaron spoke with us until he had 1% battery life,
right,
on his computer, sort of thing. And that was kind of the last thing, because Paul is a friend of the podcast and has been since pretty much season 1. And he hooked up this whole interview. Paul Matthew Harrison, author, check him out. And it was really cool to see in their relationship, because one of the books that Paul wrote about is his relationship with Aaron, you know, and we always were kind of like, you know, is he full of shit? You know, is it really, is the thing real? And actually that was a question that Chris asked him, and just kind of fucking with Paul. But once we brought Paul on, and, you know, Paul was being Paul, it was so cool seeing how Aaron, you know, their interaction, you know, you could see how he truly cared about Paul, and there is a friendship. And it's like, I'm not saying that your head's wrong. I'm just saying that, like, dude, you need to chill out, and, you know, maybe you'll get some more play. He didn't say that, but
Aaron really
maybe he
kind of
will.
disarmed him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a blast. And it ended up being one of our last acts. The last act brought down the house.
Man.
Brought us all the way down the
man.
house, to burn down the house. It got hot up in her. It was the comedy act of Amanda Martin.
I still love her.
Oh, I love Amanda Martin. I was rolling, dude. Her jokes were great. Like, she did not even give a fuck. She went there. She just like totally went there. We called it Big Tent Revival, and she took that theme and went there.
She did.
What I think is honestly better than any of the jokes, better than the performance, was at the very beginning when she made us like do that squat thing
Exercise.
and like cover our mouths and give a finger if we believe in Jesus. That was good.
Yeah. She had a great set. I wish I was more prepared for her set with like some sound effects. Like, because halfway through her set, I'm like scrambling to see if I still had some old sound effects on my computer that I could bring back up, like the rim shot and things like that. And I didn't have it. So it was like some but
Interesting. Her video on Facebook does say that it's partially muted because we played that song at the beginning, but I played it and I could still hear it all. So I didn't understand that.
Huh.
Weird.
But anyhow, it was good. That whole
Yeah, thanks for
performance.
telling all of our listeners that.
Go watch it. if you
That's
need
my
a laugh.
favorite amateur podcaster. It's an inside joke. So yeah, I mean, and it was ended
Happy
up
you clarified.
You're welcome. Yeah, and it was so fitting because it was such a long day, and to have her come on, being a friend of the podcast, and to really just bring it to a whole nother level. And it was definitely nighttime material, that's for sure. We had another act scheduled, and that was something I wanted to talk about, just how lucky we were that technology worked out for us, like pretty much for 12 hours straight. We only had one act get canceled, and it was the last act of the day, and the guy was in Alaska, and Alaska internet is a joke, to say the least. And it had gone down. He goes live daily. We're going to be hosting him probably tomorrow. You can check it out. Ukulele Russ, another friend of the podcast. But yeah, so Amanda closed it out strong with us, and we hung out for a little while with some Patreons afterwards, off air, and it was. I'm sure you want to talk a little bit more about Amanda, but it was a great night, and I appreciate you, Amanda.
Yeah, Amanda's the tits. I love her. She's great.
She has tits.
It's debatable.
Oh my gosh.
Did you hear me?
Like some chunky.
No.
No, of course not. You have to speak in the mic for that.
She likes tits.
So of course she does.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Seth.
He likes tits.
He doesn't like my tits.
Well, no.
That's true.
So he, yeah. Jeez, Seth, you need to be more open-minded about what is it that you don't like about people that have a little bit of weight on them.
Yeah, what's wrong with fat
Nothing.
people?
Why are you fat shaming? Why are you fat shaming me?
I think you're muted.
Seth,
Yeah, we can't hear you. We can't hear
Seth,
you, Seth.
Stop
if
in your
you
tracks.
don't date a fat guy, you are fat phobic.
I
Fat's not a thing.
that's called a personal preference.
Embrace my titties, Seth. Embrace these titties.
I accept your titties. I think that your titties have every right to be titties.
You should accept them in your mouth, Seth.
in every way.
if you're
does
really
not mean
accepting.
that I have to be sexually attracted. You are on Facebook Live right now.
I don't know that that's counted as nudity.
Yeah, we just got censored.
Well, he's a man. It'll be fine.
Mostly,
Anyhow,
except for the titties.
You're mostly a man?
Yeah.
so Amanda
Really?
closed
The
down the
move-
house.
the moves.
It was a great performance.
I don't think Amanda closed down the house. I think she shut it down.
She burned down the house.
Fair. So then, what happened next?
I went to bed.
Day two.
Yes.
Yep. I
was tired.
I smoked a little bit more weed and went to sleep.
I
Yeah.
passed out.
Watched
I
some
did too.
Very
watched some
tired.
paranormal shit on TV, and was glad that I don't have internet. Or I mean, glad I only have internet and not cable,
At
because I
home.
haven't watched commercials in years.
What's a commercial?
And
I don't know.
like most of them all had to do with COVID. And I'm like, no wonder people can't get over this shit, because every commercial had something to do with COVID. I'm like, Jesus Christ, like
Yeah.
get over yourself.
Mm.
I don't care how many millions of dollars you donated to whatever you consider COVID relief.
You know how much money they're spending on those advertisements? They could have spent like millions more on COVID.
What they just want to
It's
they just
that,
want to
yeah.
let you know that they care.
Of course.
It's so important to know that. My favorite one is the Corona one. Corona beer, like they're giving away like $2 million to like Corona relief, and they're losing money because their name is Corona. So I'm like, you guys are just fucking yourselves with these commercials.
It's ridiculous.
Just
Oh
keep
my
your head low.
gosh.
You'll be all right. People still drink you. You don't need a commercial. Anyway.
Are we talking about today now, or
Oh yeah, we
Are
weren't
we
done.
passing on?
We have. I thought we were about done.
We can be
podcasting
done.
for the day.
we can be done? I think we're tired. We can be done.
I'm exhausted.
Been
I'm not
on
even
for
going to
an
lie.
hour.
I'm with you, Chris.
Yeah. And then we did shit today, guys. So check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, basically that.
I wasn't tired. I wasn't tired when we started. Like I still have stuff I have to do, but I am now exhausted.
Yeah. I
We
can't wait
have-
to go lay down.
We have been on Zoom for like I am on Zoom 8 to 8.5 hours a day already, Monday through
Seth.
Friday.
Me too. I teach.
And we just
Poor
we
guys.
just did 2
Poor-
days,
poor
like
Seth.
one almost double what we would normally do on the workday.
What?
And then
I couldn't hear you.
another
Your mouth was over here instead of in front of
almost
the mic.
double the amount that we would do on a work day, plus another 8 hour a day. We're gonna go 12 days straight of Zoom with
Well,
no breaks.
Thank you for your hard work. You are a hero, and this weekend changed lives. And
How
it's
come
all
I don't have
because
that
of you.
fade to gray shirt?
I don't know.
How do you
Why
not
don't you?
have it?
I want one.
Oh, doesn't it suck to suck?
All right. Well, I have some mail to send out,
We'll
so
send,
I'll
we'll
send
you
you
a
one.
poor Seth shirt too in the
Oh,
process.
hell yes. Thank you.
Please don't. You don't have those in stock, do you? Like
mean,
you didn't make more than one. Sure.
He made 2.
I made
100.
2. And
I
don't
could
call
send
me
mine
Shirley.
to Chris. I'll make him lose weight.
Yeah, I'd have
All
to.
right.
For sure.
Let's go to bed.
Yes.
Thanks,
Thanks, everybody.
Oh,
Yeah.
and thanks, Stephanie. I see your comment.
Oh.
Omar, isn't not having commercials while raising kids amazing? That's what she says.
Not having commercials while raising kids amazing. Yes. What's
Not having commercials on your Netflix stuff.
while raising? What's that have to do with raising kids?
I don't have the brain capacity to interpret that question.
Sorry, Stephanie.
Which Stephanie is it?
It's my podcast follower, my Foreign Toe podcast.
Sorry, Stephanie, but yes, it
We're
is-
brain dead.
It is amazing. Yeah, we're done. We're gonna take a break. Love you. Thanks for watching this weekend.
We'll see you in a couple
if you're
weeks.
watching this, the other stuff this weekend was much better. But but still, it's been nice hanging out with you guys. And thank you, Chris. Thank you, Seth. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you,
I
guys.
really do think that like this was important. It was fun. And we'll do it again, and we're gonna do it better next time, and maybe not have to work quite as hard.
Yeah. Joy to work with you guys. Thanks for all your hard work, guys.